Here we go. All right. We got episode 17 of Green Bay Greg. Thanks for joining me either on Facebook, Twist, the Week in Sports Talk website, YouTube, or RTF network. Today is when I'm actually filming this live. It's Labor Day. It's a cold one out today, about 50 degrees. It's been raining all day. But I just wanted to recap the weekend. I had Grandma Terry. My mom was in town for the weekend with the kiddos and me, and good times. It was nice because usually when she comes into town, whether it's here to Minnesota or to visit my regular brother over in Denver, she always complains about how bad weather just seems to find her in those places. But this weekend, all in all, was really good. Today was the only crappy day, which was fine because she left right after lunch, back on a plane to Milwaukee, and I'm going to give you my tip for the day. So took her to the airport, then took the kids back to their mom's house, and let's see what we got going on. Mike's giving a hi. Hey, Mike Reeves. How you doing? All right. Fantastic. So dropped off Grandma Terry at the airport, dropped off the kids at their mom's house, went home, and here's your Green Bay Greg tip of the week. I took 4 regular brats. Usually I like to go with some sort of a spicy concoction in my brats, whether it's the spicy, the firecracker, whatever. But because I had a whole pack of them from when my mom and the kids were in town, I had 4 left. So here's what you do. First of all, you get a saucepan. Take your 4 brats or however many you want. I just went with 4. Sometimes you go 5, 6, whatever. If you're hungry, whatever. Poke some holes in all the areas of the brats. Okay. Then you want to boil them. But you're not just boiling them in water. You're not boiling them in beer. That's elementary. Here's what you do. You get some sriracha. You get some hot sauce. You get some Tabasco sauce. And my personal favorite, I added some Carolina Reaper sauce. Mix that in there with some water. Let the brats soak in that bath. But before you do that, here's the other trick. You get your meat injector. Yes, I said meat injector. Big syringe. Fill it up with that spicy concoction that you created and inject the brats with your spicy mixture. Then you soak the brats in the bath that you're simmering them in and simmer. Don't boil them fast. Let it soak for about a half hour or so if you have a stovetop that has a 1 through 10 setting, about a 5 or a 6. Let her soak there for about a half hour. Then you fry those bad boys up, and then here's the trick. Put them back in your bath. Have that water, have that boiling hot concoction boiling again. Then, while you're doing that, you already turned your oven to 400 degrees. And you take your 4 pretzel buns. Yes, you heard me, pretzel buns. Cut a little slit in the middle of those. Put those in the oven for about 8 minutes at 400 degrees. Toast those bad boys up. And here's the special trick. You take some jalapeno cheddar cheese sauce, the Frito-Lay stuff. Put that in a cup. Put it in the microwave. Get it nice and smoking. Then you take the brats out of the bath. Put the brats on the bun. Put the jalapeno cheese sauce on there. You'll thank me. Trust me. It is something that can be done any time of the year. I enjoy it every week of the year, but that is your Green Bay Greg recipe for the week. I don't usually do that, but it was Labor Day and I just got done eating them. So, my listening audience can benefit from that. All right, let's get right into it. Let's get right into the sports talkers. Saturday was the Kentucky Derby. Usually it's the first Saturday in May, but apparently there's some sort of a pandemic going on that here it was Labor Day weekend. So on Twist, the Week in Sports Talk, I do a segment on the show that's a player to watch, and woke up Saturday morning before Matt and I did the show. Mike was on vacation with the kiddos, and saw that looked at the lot, looked at the horse races, looked at where the starting spots were, looked at all the odds, kind of did a little looking at the old race, and I figured that Authentic, the horse that was in the 18th slot, was my horse beat. He was 8-1, which is not a favorite. He was actually 3rd or 4th, depending on where it ended up in the depth chart of how they were going to finish. He was my lock to win, my player to watch for the week. He ended up winning. If you don't believe me, go to the Week in Sports Talk and watch that segment of the show again. I picked it. Now, what I would have done, Matt after the show, ran to Canterbury, ran to the OTB right outside of Canterbury Park, put a few shekels down on 18 and a couple other things. What I would have done in that scenario, I used to do a lot of dog race betting when I was in my early 20s. Would have trifected that. I would have keyed the 18 to win that race, would have taken the two favorites, 16 and 17, to finish in second place, either one of those two to finish in second. And then I would have taken the field in third place. So 18 would have had to come into first, which I said it would. 16 and 17, so one of the favorites would have come in second. And then any horse possible would have come in third, and you would have hit the trifecta. That bet would have cost around $25, $30, depending. But that would have been, that would hit the trifecta, several. That would have been a lot of money, a few G's. I did not do that. Why? I don't know that kind of discretionary income. COVID has been good to me. But anyway, that was my sports talk for the week. It was fun. But here's what was fun about it when I get into sports talkers is with the FedEx Championship this weekend in golf, with the Kentucky Derby, with football starting, and I'll get into a lot more of this. What we're starting to do as a sports watching society is we're getting back into normal. People are starting to have conversations. I know that my dad, me, Matt, and Mike were texting each other about, how much to bet, who to bet on the Kentucky Derby. And I, was really getting vocal about that. And then, like all buddies do, Mike had to shut us down because he was, on vacation with his kids. So that was fun, but it was all that banter was back, and all of the podcasts that I listen to or watch, all the programs I watch, everyone's excited about football coming back. So get into that a little more. But the fun part about this weekend, I'll say, from a sports perspective, was that sports are coming back, and so is the banter. On a side note, that it was great having, my mom here with the kids for the holiday weekend. I know it always is the same thing. She usually comes in town for an extended week. Excuse me. An extended weekend. And the kids and I really enjoy her visit. So moving on to You're Better Than That. And the You're Better Than That this week is none other than the Milwaukee Bucks. I talked about it on Twist that I never thought it was possible for a basketball team to take on the likeness or the character of a baseball team. And what I mean by that is a team that's really good in the regular season, but just isn't built for the playoffs. And then I started thinking about it. And right now the Bucks are down 3-1 to the Miami Heat. They're the number one seed. For a long portion of the season, they were actually on pace to win 70-plus games this year. Lost a few at the end of the regular season before COVID hit. And then they went back into the bubble, and they were pretty much an essential lock for the number one seed. So, you can kind of see why they weren't playing all that tough during the last 8 games of the bubble format. But what it forced me to do to watch this 3-1 deficit was see if Milwaukee is a team that just isn't built for an NBA championship. They're built for the regular season. Well, you look at it, and they have the best player in the league. Last year's MVP, and this year he will be the MVP again, Giannis Antetokounmpo. But the problem with it is the MVP award is pretty much given to the offensive player of the year. The best player on the best team, scoring the most points, blah, 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 rebounds, assists, combination of all of that. Well, Giannis was also the defensive player of the year in the NBA. So you have the best defensive player and essentially the best offensive player, the best all-around player in the NBA in one person. Now, I think that what made the Chicago Bulls as great as they were back in the 90s was having Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. You had the MVP, but Scottie Pippen was never outside of the first team All-NBA defensive team during that run. He was a shutdown defensive player like Giannis. Even if he wasn't to the level of Giannis, he was still a top 5 defensive player. Now, Giannis is that on defense. Giannis is that on offense. The problem is that both of those people are the same person. You need someone else to step up. The NBA is not designed for one guy to run the show. It wasn't back in Michael Jordan's era. It wasn't in Kobe's era. It wasn't in anyone's era. You always need a wingman, a second fiddle. In some cases, in some cases you need a third. With the Celtics, with the big three, with Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. So you're always looking for that three, but usually some years you can get away with one. I mean, right now the Lakers are looking pretty good. They have AD and they have what's his name? Oh yeah, LeBron. But in the past, you've had LeBron, you've had D Wade, and you've had Chris Bosh. You've had D Wade. You've had LeBron, you've had Kyrie, and you've had Kevin Love. So you need 2 or 3 guys. And the problem with Milwaukee is that you can have a guy like Giannis that overpowers a game. You run up the score, and you can sit back and let Giannis get a lot more rest in the second half and have very capable guys come off the bench. They're a very deep team, and they can hold on the leads. And you're going to win 65, 70 games in a year with that mentality. But in the playoffs, when you're playing against the same team up to 7 times in a row, it's hard to do that because you're not playing against bottom feeders and you're not playing, those games where you can just run it up. Teams aren't going to let up on you. So what do I think Milwaukee's got to do going into next year, assuming they keep Giannis? It would be great if they could find another player. It would be better if they could have one of their current players, whether it's Bledsoe or Middleton, really step up. Because to be honest with you, I've watched a lot of basketball since it's been in the bubble. And what I've seen is Brook Lopez playing really well. I've seen Chris Middleton being very, very hot and cold. I mean, he can be great for a quarter, but then be horrible for the next 3 quarters. But it's been really Brook Lopez and Giannis. And those 2 guys play in the same area of the court. You need a guy who can shoot. I mean, you've got DiVincenzo who can play some defense, but you need someone who's a lot better than that. Kyle Korver is a great shooter, but he's not a wingman to Giannis. So you need another all-star caliber player if the Milwaukee Bucks are going to win a championship. Hopefully next year, Bucks. I know that technically you're not eliminated yet, but right now it just doesn't look good. So moving on to GBG moment of Zen. So football's back. And since I promote this as a show that talks more about the numbers, more about fantasy, more about stats, Matt and Mike do a lot of that, and those are great shows to watch if you're into that stuff. I actually watch their shows. I'm into it. I do enjoy fantasy football. I do enjoy depth charts of the top 10 this, the top 10 that, the power rankings. I just want to take a different approach with my show because you don't need 3 episodes of that. You need 2 episodes of that. Those guys arguing banter back and forth for their rankings and whatnot. What I'm looking forward to this year in the NFL season is a lot of what's going on, who's doing what, who's on new teams, is Patrick Mahomes going to have another season like he did last year? Is he going to be able to repeat that end of the season that led him to a Super Bowl? Are guys like Jadeveon Clowney, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, are those types of guys going to be as big of an impact on the teams that they're now playing on as teams hoped they would? And then are there guys like Alex Smith, Adrian Peterson, for different reasons on new teams? Do they still have enough in the tank to, pose a difference, be productive on their teams? My prediction when it comes to a guy like Alex Smith is he'll be starting by week 4. They just announced that Dwayne Haskins is going to be the starter for the Washington football team, the Washington Redskins, week 1. But I believe that Alex Smith will, after another month and a half of, practice, even if it's with second team reps, kind of being on the sideline, getting back in the feel of game time. And with me not having a lot of faith in Dwayne Haskins, I really think that Alex Smith will be back on the field starting at quarterback for the Washington football team, by week 5. I really do believe that not only is he a feel-good story, but in every place that he's been productive, and he's been a good quarterback, whether it was with San Francisco, Kansas City, or Washington before he got hurt. Does Adrian Peterson still have enough left in the tank? They just cut him, and, it looks like I think it was Detroit that was going to pick him up. I talked about this on Twist. He's not going to be an every down back, obviously. He's not going to be the type of back that's even needed a lot. You got to start running back that's going to need a breather every now and again. Put AP in. So I think it's going to be pretty good. I think that he's going to be a good fit for whether it's Detroit or whoever picks him up. But I believe that he's the type of guy with just enough motivation and just enough, chutzpah to, prove some people wrong. A lot of people think that, running backs hit that cliff at 30 years old. I think that he's going to show that he's got, some left in the tank. And then, like I said, there's guys like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, these top-tier, high-quality quarterbacks that are just on the same team that they were on last year. And, what are they going to do? Are they going to be, playoff contenders again that are fighting for the Super Bowl? Are they going to take a step back? Are they going to take a step up? What's going to happen? For me, these are the interesting storylines for this year. Also, will the Jaguars go 0-16? If you're in a survival pool where you can pick one team only once a year to win a game, and you have to win in order to stay alive, and then as you lose, you go through the season. For those of you who don't know what that is, you can make it all the way till week 8 this year before the Jaguars play the Texans for a second time, where you can just play whoever the Jacksonville Jaguars are playing in the survivor pool. Just a strategy you might want to go with, at least to play it safe for the first couple of weeks till you get a feel for how COVID and all the now no fans in the stands, no preseason games kind of feels. If you're going to do that type of a pool, I say you always go against the worst team in the league, go against the Jags. So there you go. So let's jump into outside the arena. So what I want to talk about in this week is something I know Mike Reeves touched on his show, and we touched on Twist. Steve Nash was just named the Brooklyn Nets new head coach. Steve Nash is 46 years old. He doesn't have any coaching experience. However, he is an NBA Hall of Famer. And here, more importantly, for the sake of this discussion, here's the kicker. He's a white guy. But we have a lot of people out there who are saying that it's white privilege, that he doesn't deserve it, that he didn't earn the right to be a head coach because there's plenty of African-American coaches out there that are chomping at the bit to get a head coaching job. I don't believe those things are mutually exclusive. I believe that they are completely separate issues. If there's African-American head coaches out there that deserve the right to have a shot in the NBA as a head coach, that's fantastic. I completely agree. There are coaches, but I don't believe it has anything to do with Steve Nash getting hired. Here's the thing. There is an owner and a general manager who are pined with one thing: put the best product on the court. You have 2-star players in Brooklyn. You have Kyrie Irving, who I'm going to break some news here. So if you guys, sit down for a second. They have Kyrie Irving, and they also have Durant, the Durantula. They're both black. Not only that, but when you have 2 high-profile players like that, the general manager and the owner are going to call those 2 guys when you're paying them oodles and oodles and oodles of guaranteed millions of dollars. You're going to ask them, hey, who would you like to be your coach? Or a lesser point, if we hire so-and-so, are you guys okay with it? If you don't think it happens, you're stupid. I guarantee you one of those 2 scenarios happened. Either they said, who do you want? And those 2 guys said, we would like Steve Nash. Or they said, hey, we're thinking about Steve Nash. What do you guys think? And they would have said, hey, we like it. We love it. Great idea. So this to me, so when you have sports writers and columnists who are saying that this is a slap in the face, blah, 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 you're barking up the wrong tree. You're arguing with the wrong people. This is like back in the 90s when Iraq invaded Kuwait and people were signing up for the military. And then you had grandmas and moms picketing on state capitol saying, you sent my baby to war. No, you didn't. Your baby signed up for war. You know who the most embarrassed people were in the world when grandmas and moms were on the Capitol lawns picketing saying, you sent my baby to war? It was these babies who volunteered to fight for their country. They wanted to fight for their country, not only in the Desert Storm, but after 9/11. We haven't had a draft since Vietnam. So don't bitch if you are a mom or a grandma or whatever saying, you sent my baby to war. No, they sent themselves. Why? Because you might want to have a conversation with little Johnny or little Timmy or little Susie or little Sherry or whoever signed up. They walked into the recruiter's office and they said, I want to do my part. I want to help defend my freedom, my Constitution. I want to fight for my country. So don't go in there and argue on behalf of someone when they don't want you. Little Timmy doesn't need you wiping his ass, Grandma. Little Timmy signed up on his own volition because he wanted to go there and fight for himself. Just like you can't go off there and bitch about it was so-and-so didn't get this job in the NBA. It's white privilege. No. And don't blame Steve Nash. Steve Nash applied for the job, interviewed for the job like anyone else. And the powers that be, and in this case, the powers that be were two African-American all-star caliber players said, we want the white guy. When Jason Kidd, Jason Kidd got 2 head coaching jobs, went from one job to another with 0 experience. Look at him. He's an African-American. Same situation. He got one job, got fired from it, and got hired by Milwaukee almost instantaneously. Okay? Stop arguing and bitching to protect people when they don't need to be protected. If Ty Lue gets a head coaching job in the NBA next season, it's because he earned it. And it's also because the GM of whatever team hires him and the owner of whatever team hires him and whatever all-star on that team that hires him says, you know what? We want him on our bench. We want him to be the head coach. It's not racial in this case. It's a guy who just happens to be a best fit that was signed off for by the 2 all-star players, the guy who's put in charge of putting together the best possible team and coaching staff as possible. Oh, yeah. And the guy who signs the damn checks. So they all signed off on it. So chill out. All right. Now I'm going to end it on a light note. The GBG challenge. Talked a lot about normalcy this week. My mom coming into town, feeling that sense of normal at the end of the night. We make popcorn with the kids. We watch a funny movie that the kids enjoy that they, have already seen. Get Grandma Terry to watch it, blah, blah, blah. Sports are back. Last week, Tuesday, me, Matt, and Mike went to a St. Paul Saints game. Had a lot of fun. Got to see some fans in the stands. Not a lot, but some. My challenge to you this week is do something that you feel would be going back to your old normal. Before all this racial unrest, social injustice, before COVID, I get it if you have to take precautions by wearing a mask. But go out to a movie. Go to a ball game. Find one that's playing. Go to a high school sporting event. Go walk around in a mall. Do something to make yourself feel normal again. The weather's getting to be, turning. So we don't have a whole lot of outside time left before it's bitterly cold up here in the Midwest. So go out there, have fun, enjoy life, but go back to doing something that you just feel normal doing. That's all I got for this week. Have fun. Till next week, GBG out.